Good evening and welcome to a special edition of Black Press USA's Fire. Valerie Castile, the mother of Philando Castile, who was murdered by a Minnesota police officer in 2016 during a traffic stop, has continued to keep her son's legacy alive, helping the community and everyone else she can. Among other efforts, Valerie has paid more than $200,000 to clear the lunch debts of seniors who were preparing to graduate. The checks come from the Philando Castile Relief Foundation and was used to help families who have been unable to pay back the debt over an extended period of time. And after watching Philando Castile's murder at a traffic stop on the news, Jacqueline Carter, a former court reporter turned social justice advocate and law enforcement expert, began working with community organizers and law enforcement officers to create the Not Reaching Pouch. Initially designed with her son in mind, the Not Reaching Pouch is a transparent pouch to hold one's license and registration that rests on the AC vent next to the driver's window in plain view. It's designed with input from law enforcement professionals. It is a pleasure to welcome Valerie Castile and her buddy, Jacqueline Carter. And it's also a pleasure to welcome our president and CEO, Dr. Benjamin Chavis. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Very good. It's good to be here. And on behalf of the Black Press, I just want to say to both of you, our prayers were with you when this tragedy happened. Our prayers are still with you today, so that we can keep not only the memory of Philando alive, but work on ensuring that the legacy is upheld by not only Black Americans, but by all people across the United States and throughout the world, so that we will not allow his murder or his death to be in vain. We have to work hard. So on behalf of the Black Press of America, I just wanted to say at the beginning of this program, we salute you. You will always be in our prayers. And if anything that the Black Press of America can do to help, you can count on us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you a lot.
And let me start off with both of you, Ms. Carter and Ms. Valerie. Tell us how this partnership, this friendship developed between the two of you, and you guys can kind of talk us through it.
Do you want to go first, Valerie?
I think you know more about it than me because it was kind of a whim for me. I am friends with DeMont Pender. He's the Picasso painter of tragedies that lives up in the DC, Maryland area. And he was down here with a group. What was that called? I can't remember. My mind is kind of boggled right now. But anyway, we had met and he had done a portrait of Philando and he wanted to give it to me. And I met him that way. And I was coming up to DC to do an interview or be on a panel of some sort. And DeMont met me and we got together and he said he had set up a podcast for me. So you can take it from there, Jackie.
Yeah, so I get a call from Mike Lee from Plushwork Radio, and he says to me, "Hey, Valerie Castile's in town, want you to come down to the radio station." And I'm just amazed because I had wanted to meet her all along. So I go to the station and we met there and we have been friends, I would say almost sisters ever since.
Wow. And obviously the tragedy of your son's murder at the hands of police in Minneapolis or Minnesota probably brought even more of a bond with you guys. We not necessarily want you to relive that, Valerie, but can you just walk us through a little bit of the aftermath of what you went through following the news of what happened to your son?
Well, the aftermath of what happened, the murder of Philando, we're going to call it exactly what it is. But me personally, I considered it to be a crucifixion. His hair was the thorn crown, the seatbelt was the cross, and the bullets were the nails. My son had absolutely nowhere to go, nowhere to run for cover, and I don't understand. I'm talking about from the heart, from your inner core, I don't get why that conversation within 7 or 6 seconds, my son was killed, was murdered. But the aftermath, the trial, all the innuendos, the media painting him to be a different person. You know, they tried to say my son was a thug. My son had been working since he was 13 years old. He's always held a job, and to the day he was denied his right to live. My son was gainfully employed. And for the media to put that out there like that, I thought it was a tragedy within a tragedy. I mean, and then, you know, it's a lot of things that go along with that. People know, but they don't know. You talk about marijuana being in the system. If you know anything about marijuana, marijuana can stay in your system up to 30 days. So you can't say he was smoking in the car and that's why he was killed because he had marijuana in the system. That's absolutely ridiculous. Being high, even if he was high, that's not a death sentence.
Mm-hmm.
If you do something wrong in this country, your constitutional rights is to have your day in court. And my son didn't have his day in court. But it's been a nightmare. And at the end of the trial, when the man was acquitted, I said, you guys just don't know what you did right now. You've given these people free reign to kill. You had everything you needed and some more to get a conviction, but this man walked out this courtroom. I mean, now you've given them, you know, they can do anything to us. Now here we are today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And since 2016, right here in the state of Minnesota, 80 people have died at the hands of the police since 2016. Did you hear me?
Yeah.
And here we are today with George Floyd.
And here we are today with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, Philando Castile. We have Jacqueline Carter, who has developed something really, really important. And we also have a civil rights champion, Dr. Chavis, with us. And yet here we are in 2020, and we have a racist person typing in stuff online to us to try and divert the important message that Miss Castile and Miss Carter have. Total lack of respect, but we move forward, and that's just the way you got to do it, right? You move
That's right.
forward. And so
he can easily just get on out of the equation. He can just go and do something else on Facebook.
or YouTube or wherever, right?
Yeah.
But Dr. Chavis, speak to that though, because you're used to that.
Well, I would just like to say to Valerie, as a mother, you remind me of Mrs. Mobley, who was the mother of Emmett Till. Her son was tragically murdered in Mississippi, and they mutilated his body so bad they didn't want to open the casket. But Emmett Till's mother said, "No, you're not going to do this to my son. I'm going to make the whole world see what happened to my son." And they put his picture, mutilated face, on the front page of Jet magazine. It was in the 1950s. I was a little kid when that happened. And I just want to say that the voice and the spirit of mothers who've had their sons slain, their sons murdered, your voice has great weight, great power. And on this live stream, there are millions of people listening to you, Valerie. They not only hear you, but they feel your spirit. They feel the love of a mother, but also the determination of a mother not to demand that justice be done. You know, while this court hearing this sort of questionable trial that they had where they let the police officers walk, you know, there's some other judges and some other courts. You know, in terms of the court of public opinion, justice has still not been done in this case. So I just wanted to encourage Valerie as a mother, stay strong, keep that faith, keep your spirit, keep the love of your son in your heart. And there are millions of people who will be in solidarity with you, who would do what is necessary to act and put pressure on the government there in Minnesota, and by the time it gets to the federal courts, to make sure that we don't give up, we don't stop stop mobilizing until justice is done.
Yeah, and to that end, Dr. Chavis, Valerie Castile has, as we said at the top, she started with the foundation, with the Philando Castile Foundation. She's been doing some extraordinary work. Ms. Castile, before we go to Ms. Carter, because we have to bring her into this conversation because she's doing some important things as well. Could you tell us a little bit about that, about the lunch debt, a little bit more about that you've been taking care of for students everywhere, or high school students anyway, and why you do it?
Well, the reason why we created the Relief Foundation is called the Philando Castile Relief Foundation. We wanted to bring some type of relief to our families and communities. My son was known for paying for children's lunch debts. You know, when they couldn't afford their meal for the day, he would come out of his pocket and pay for it himself. So I just figured I would start a foundation and do the things that he held near and dear to his heart. And that's family, the community, and the children that he served every day. So we help families that loses a loved one to gun violence. We give a donation for them to buy funeral accessories or pay on the funeral expenses. And then we pay, we help reduce the negative lunch balances. We can't pay it all off because unfortunately, one district that may have 10 schools will have an excess of $300,000 lunch debt at the end of the year. So we try to reduce that to bring some relief to our families. And like I said, we have disaster relief funds as well. You know, we paid a district 287 recently. We gave them donated $8,000 to them. And it kind of broke my heart because this particular school district serves some of our more vulnerable children with disabilities. And I was like, are you serious? You mean to tell me our children with disabilities have to pay for lunch? You know, we don't know the dynamics of our families, you know, financially. We don't know their dynamics. So you giving them a lunch bill, that's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous that our kids have to pay a lunch debt. These are the future leaders of this country. And we have to worry about a lunch debt at the end of the year, an extra bill, because the way they do that, you may be $200 over the qualifications, the guidelines. You may be $200 over that. But at the end of the year, you're going to owe $800. Yeah. That $200 going to cost you $800.
And to help support what Ms. Castile is doing, you can text no lunch debt to 44321. That's to donate. The information will continue to roll throughout the program, as you see there. No lunch debt to 44321. You know, Ms. Carter, what my wife and daughters tell me all the time now when I'm driving to make sure that my license and registration is in a place where I don't have to reach for it. You have developed something that is really life-saving for many and can potentially be life-saving for millions of African Americans. Can you talk about that, please?
Sure. I created the not reaching pouch, and that is exactly what it looks like. It holds your license, registration, and insurance. I think the light's on it. It has a magnetic clip on it, so it clips to your driver's side air vent, which is very important. So it's that close when an officer reaches the car. And so when an officer does approach your car during a traffic stop, you no longer have to reach or have any sudden movements. And that is what law enforcement has said makes them nervous and escalates traffic stops. And Philando's the reason why I created this. I didn't create this for any other reason but for him, because on July 6th of 2016, we were in Pennsylvania, where we used to live, celebrating our son Justin's 30th birthday on July 6th of 2016. And Valerie lost her son as we're celebrating. And there's just something about that. I just could not go through life anymore without thinking, how could we fix this problem? What is the solution? And after, talking with law enforcement and doing some prototypes, we came up with not reaching. But ironically, before I met Valerie, I had pulled the transcripts because I was a grand jury court reporter, so I know how important transcripts are. So I pulled the transcripts of the traffic stop, and Philando's last words before he lost his constitutional right to live was, "I wasn't reaching." And just, the things that just came together when it came to the not reaching pouch, and Valerie and my son and her son. Philando became my son also on July 6th of 2016. And I do believe that when you put something like that in your heart, you can't walk away from it. You can't turn away from it. You have to do something.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Chavis, you wanted to weigh in?
Yeah, I just want to thank Jackie for your leadership and for responding. And I can see now why Valerie and Jackie have become comrades,
Yes.
Sisters in the struggle, sister leaders in the struggle. And I think that, Stacey, what I would like to do is to make sure that this live stream, while it's live now, but I want to make sure it's rebroadcast over and over again. I want every mother, I want every household in our community to listen to this program, to hear what Valerie has said, to hear what Jackie is saying, because I think we have to better inform our people. I like the idea of having that pouch, no reaching. The problem really is not so much what Black people do or don't do, but when white people see some of these police officers, they're already in a state of stereotypic, systemic racist fear. They fear the fact that we drive cars. They fear the fact that we walk through the neighborhood. They fear the fact that we have some sense of uplift and respect. I've been arrested 67 times in the civil rights movement, 67 times. And of course, we ultimately were found not guilty, although the Wilmington 10 case, I spent most of the 1970s unjustly in prison. But one of the things the reason I'm bringing this up, I'm not going to let any of that, those tactics, those antics make me lose my faith, make me lose my spirit. If anything, it's going to make me push harder. And I think that the voices of these two sisters, Stacey, I want to amplify their voices. I want to amplify what they're doing in their own communities. And because I think other mothers, quite frankly, and fathers are in distress. We don't want to let our children out of our sight. We let our children drive off. We don't know whether they're coming home or not.
That's right.
I mean, that's a very deep stress. And I have a lot of friends who are in the National Medical Association, the Black doctors. And they tell me all the time, the greatest killer of Black people in America today is stress. Mm-hmm. And because it's not that we are born stressful, it's the social condition, it's the environment. When we talk about systemic racism, that term, we need to unpack it because it is serious. It causes great, great harm and sometimes irreparable harm to our communities. And I think that we have to keep pushing. This election is so important coming up. Yeah. And I've already seen on social media where people are rationalizing not to vote. They're rationalizing not to be counted in the census. But this is no time for us to be making excuses. I think if we were more aware as a people of all of the tragedies, of all of the sufferings, of all the sacrifices that our people have made for over 200 300 400 years, we should be the most conscious people in the world. Yeah. where we dare not allow another tragedy like what happened to Philando ever happen. And when these police officers, it's beyond training. They should never be hired in the first place. The wrong people are in the police department. You know, you can't retrain somebody who is already prone to take a life because of somebody's skin color or because of somebody's looking different from what their upbringing are. Racism starts at a very early age. Nobody's born a racist. That little 17-year-old guy that took that rifle and went and murdered 2 people, you know, in Wisconsin. He drove from Illinois to Wisconsin with the express purpose to take a life, you know, and now people are raising money for him, treating him like he's a hero. So we got some serious systemic problems in America. And I just think, Stacey, I want to make sure that this particular program, of all the live streams that we've done, I want to make sure that we amplify Jackie's voice, that we amplify Valerie's voice.
Absolutely. And
thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jackie Carter, where can people purchase this?
I have a website, notreaching.com, notreaching.com. The goal, and let me make this clear, and a lot of people don't, you know, they say, yeah, you know, I don't believe this, but the goal wasn't to make money. I mean, I work full time. I'm, you know, mom, I struggle. It was to save lives.
Yes.
What happened to Philando never should have happened. And let's be clear, you know, all of these situations that are police involved are tragedies. And I wouldn't take anything away from anyone's tragedy. But what I do know is what happened to Philando. He did nothing wrong. Like, he did nothing wrong. You know, today, there's not a day that doesn't go by where that doesn't, like, I well up, you know, with tears, because he didn't do anything. He had been stopped, what, over 52 times, Valerie?
That's what's more than likely documented. You have to understand they probably stopped him over 80 times, but 50 something is documented. I lost count way a long time ago. I don't know exactly how many times the man got stopped, but I can tell you this. How long would he have had his job if he answered those tickets all the time? Because trust me, when he got pulled over, when he was crucified, he had valid license. He had valid insurance. But how long do you think he would have had his job if he didn't know how to do this? He knew this like the back of his hand. He know what you want when he gets stopped. He got this down to a science. You didn't stop him so much. This is regular for him. This routine. Oh, he want my driver's license and my insurance. He wasn't thinking about this man pulling out his gun, shooting him 5 times. He was not looking for that. He wasn't expecting that. Do you know, I struggle just trying to understand how scared my son was looking down the barrel of a gun. You respected his authority. You said, sir,
yep.
Sir, I have to tell you, I have a weapon in the car. And you start yelling at me. You weren't giving specifics because you already asked me for my license. My license in my pocket, I'm reaching for it. You understand? And he shot and killed my son, just like that.
And Yanez only had 3 hours of use of force training. 3 hours. I mean, really, he didn't have any training. He was just sent out there and to just really run roughshod over a community. And you know, we have to look at those things. You know, if you're not equipped for the first thing that occurs with most people, which is a traffic stop, if you're that scared, you shouldn't even be on the force. Period.
Yeah. You know, and with that, Ms. Castile and Ms. Carter, I want to read you a quote that Chris Rock, the actor comedian, stated just a couple of weeks ago. And this is what he said. He said, whenever the cops kill an innocent black man, they give the excuse, oh, it's just a few bad apples. Bad apples? Some jobs can have bad apples, Chris Rock said. Some jobs, everybody gotta be good, like pilots. American Airlines can't be like, well, most of our pilots like to land. We just got a few bad apples that like to crash into mountains. Please bear with us. Can you speak to that? I'm sure, Ms. Castile, you probably can speak very well to that.
When it comes to that, I use that terminology as far as an analogy about the blueberries. You bring home this bushel of blueberries, nice plump. You got one that's moldy. You put it in the refrigerator. You come back, look at it. Half the bushel moldy now because of that one moldy blueberry. You come back, the whole bushel is moldy because you can have one person in the department that has a way of thinking, a negative way of thinking, and then you start training these other guys and you teaching them how to abuse and oppress the people that you're supposed to serve. So it's not, it's just a lot of things that go along with that. Another thing is these guys are fresh out of high school. They probably been bullied and pushed in their locker, and then you give them a gun. They have not lived long enough to have life lessons to deal with critical thinking. So you give these young guys guns, and then you have a terrible trainer. So now you're gonna have critical incidents because look at the way they are put together. Young man, fresh out of high school, no tolerance, and you got a gun.
Yeah.
And you got problems.
Yeah, and my son served. He was a medic in Afghanistan, so that 30th birthday was very important for us because he had come home physically unscathed. However, he suffers from severe PTSD, and knowing that for me, and this is I say this all the time, I was less nervous when he was in Afghanistan.
Wow.
I'm more nervous on a daily basis. I the other day, and I tried to hurry up and get the thought out of my head. I'm like, oh my God, my son's 34. Yeah. And I thought about Philando, and I'm like, I'm terrified. I'm terrified. And that I don't pray God, please don't let that happen to me. But I look at, Valerie, you said when he hit age 30, you thought he was good. What age? Yeah. She said when he turned 30, she was like, he made it. Because for a young Black man, getting past 25 is almost living to be 80.
That's what the average lifespan for a young Black man was in St. Louis. Philando was born in St. Louis, Missouri in 1983. And at that time, they said that the average lifespan for a Black man in St. Louis was 25 years old. So when he reached 30, I was like, oh, praise the Lord. My son, he's okay. He's working, he's not in no troubles. He's not affiliated with no gangs. He go to work, he come home, play the Xbox, that around the world global headset type thing. He good. And you get pulled over because of this guy lied about the tail light being out. I personally went and got that tail light fixed. It was busted, true that. But I went to AutoZone. Young guy came outside. I went and bought a bulb and that red tape. The young man came outside, cleaned the glass out of the back, the back thingy, put the tape on there, took a box cutter and cut around it so it looked like, it was glass or whatever. So I knew it was a lie about the tail light. Yeah. That's all the time. That's every time they stop a Black person.
Yeah. And
description.
I like to just put in there too, as serving the time I did for years as a grand jury court reporter in DC showed me a lot. Like it just opened my eyes to a lot of things. And I also want to put out there, number one, no, I don't believe all police officers are bad, because I say this to Valerie all the time. Who we going to call? It's not Ghostbusters. We have to call law enforcement, right? So one of the things that officers told me to my face was, I was like, when you do a traffic stop, what are you looking for? And they said there's three things: black, dreads, and tinted windows in DC. Those three things are there, we're automatically stopping.
Wow. So it's profiling.
Racial profiling.
Yeah.
Racial profiling.
You have to understand they changed the racial profiling to probable cause. Right. It ain't racial profiling no more. They call it
probable cause. I think I smell weed coming to the car.
Yeah.
I think.
So I want to ask Dr. Chavis to share with us. He came up under Martin Luther King. He saw things in the 60s that I'm sure he didn't expect. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, Dr. Chavis, but you didn't expect in 2020 you'd be talking with Valerie Castile and Jackie Carter about what we're talking about today.
Well, our struggle has been a long struggle, but I think I want to say that what is different. Keep in mind when I mentioned Emmett Till's mother, she was different because at the time that happened in the mid 1950s, we were relatively silent, even when these tragedies happened. Today in 2020, I see Trayvon Martin's mother. I see Eric Garner's mother. I see Philando Castile's mother. I see Breonna Taylor's mother. I think the mothers are more outspoken today than decades ago. That's a good thing. But what I would like to say, though, is that the culmination, the cumulative effect of all these tragedies that are happening, and we see the young people out there carrying signs, Black Lives Matter. There have been a lot of shootings in Los Angeles, but then when they got the tape of Rodney King being built, that videotape, people saw it. They knew it was going on, but people saw it. And so when people saw what happened to Philando on video, when people saw what happened to George Floyd on video, the sight makes a difference in terms of our consciousness, our ability to not reckon with it, but to respond. And I think that I don't see the movement subsiding. I think we're on an incline, and I think that a great day of reckoning is coming to America, no question about it. All these things are not going to be able to be swept under the carpet. I mean, and the fact that a jury, I can't even call it a trial of that police officer that they let off. That's part of the systemic injustice that has to be changed. And I think we got to keep pressing forward. We can't be discouraged. We have to learn from our history, not repeat our history, and demand and keep demanding. Dr. King used to tell us that we have to be impatient with injustice, not patient with injustice. But he also said that because a lot of us are victimized, we have to be patient with one another. Because sometimes we do fall out with one another. And I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to use a hip hop term. There are a lot of player haters out there. I'm talking about in our own community. I'm just going to be honest. And because we are socialized to pull each other down rather than lift each other up. And we need more lift up. We need more pull up, And I think that I see something happening, particularly among our younger brothers and sisters. There's a hunger and thirst for information. And that's why programs like tonight's program is so important, because they get to hear the unfiltered truth. They get to hear the unabridged truth. And we need more of that.
Yeah, we are talking with Valerie Castile, the mother of Philando Castile, and also Jacqueline Carter, who has created the Not Reaching pouch, a transparent pouch to hold one's license and registration that rests on the AC.
I'm going to get me one. I'm 72 years old. I'm going to get me a pouch.
I'll just give you a pouch, sir.
Ms. Castile, I have to ask you, because none of us, we feel your pain, but we have not walked in your shoes. At least Dr. Chavis and I have not walked in your shoes, and many of our viewers haven't. But after your son's murder at the hands of police officers in Minnesota, we've seen many others, right? What is your reaction when you see when you hear about George Floyd, when you hear about all the others that have come since your son's murder?
Oh, well, one thing I do go and stand in solidarity with these mothers. Unfortunately, I have met quite a few mothers that have lost a loved one to gun violence, because that's what the foundation does. And I meet with these mothers, and I pray with the mothers. I hug the mothers, and we become friends. You know, we may not talk every day, but they know that I'm a ear for them. If they feel down or having a problem for their day, they know I'm open for a discussion. I can talk with them and hear them out. But unfortunately, we have a camaraderie here in Minnesota, because, like I said, since 2084, 400 people have been killed at the hands of the police just right here in Minnesota. 80 since 2016. And I have a relationship with these guys. You know, I go out. I went out and protest with George Floyd, the family, and the community. Yes, I have. And a lot more. You know what I'm saying? This is a constant thing. I promise you, every day, maybe in different areas of the city, there's a protest about somebody commemorating their child. Every day is only 365 days in a year, and 400 people have lost their life. So some of these days are overlapping. I can't go to them all, but I do support them. I do stand in solidarity with them. I do, go and be on working groups and panels and uplifting my community. I am there for them. And unfortunately, we have a group, I call it the Effed Up Mothers Club. Y'all know what I called it. I don't know who watching your show or whatever, because sometimes I get heated about this, and then words come out my mouth. You know what I'm saying? What come out my mouth don't have nothing to do with my heart. My heart is pure. I come from a good space, and I want to help and do whatever I can for my community, because I know the struggle is real. I know white supremacy is real. I know racism is real. So I do all I can for my community and my family.
And Stacey, I would like to just say one thing I said to Valerie last week, because, it's difficult for her to continue to come out and speak. I can't even imagine. And she's just, she has a mission. But what I said to her, and I appreciate all of you giving us opportunities, because I don't want the media to bury her son twice.
That's right.
And I think what media has done is, once, if it bleeds, it leads, right? So that story is that story. But I especially, to my dying day, will not let that happen. And I appreciate opportunities like this for us.
Well, we appreciate you, Ms. Carter. And to that end, Ms. Carter, I wanted to ask you, because you are a social justice advocate, you're an entrepreneur, you're a hard worker, and you're a law enforcement expert. And I know you've learned so much and understand so much about law enforcement. Can you kind of tell Black America, particularly, best practices? Pulled over, what's the best practices?
First one, keep your mouth shut. Number one, that arguing, this, that, and cut it out. Stop it right now. Philando, even though he was murdered, showed the utmost respect, right? Keep your hands where they can see them. Don't move your hands. Once that window is down and that not reaching pouch is sitting right there, I was stopped, told the cop, go ahead and reach in my car. You can get that pouch. Totally changed the whole dynamic of the stop. And so my advice is to less of the mouth, more respect, and keep your hands where they can see them. No sudden movements. They're the most important things about a traffic stop. And more times than not, then it will go well. Unfortunately, we had what happened with Philando.
Yeah, and what about those? So like you said, unfortunately, there will be some that go wrong, and that's what the other side will say, or someone else who might want to continue to play devil's advocate. I do everything right. And this still happens. Philando did everything right, and this still happened. We saw a video not long ago, somewhere in the South. I can't remember whether it's North Carolina or somewhere else in the South, but a young man pulled over, I guess, and he had his hands behind his head, and the cop ran and did a drop kick on him. You know, so we still see that. So your response even to that, and I mean, look, I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Oh no, that's fine. I mean, look, we can only control our behavior, right? We're in control of ourselves, our behavior. So I, admonish people to be, in control of that behavior. Do whatever you can, and you can record it. ACLU has an app that lets you record the entire traffic stop if you have to. I just want to say, LeBron James made a statement about a year or so ago about the advice he gave his children for a traffic stop, and as it just wasn't good. Let's just be honest. He did tell them, be respectful, absolutely. Call your mom and dad. No, that's not the time to pick up the phone and make a call, and then place your phone under your seat. He just put them in harm's way. That is absolutely not what you do. And we have to teach our children to be respectful and mature enough to handle that traffic stop, because guess what? If you're able to handle a 2,000-pound car, you don't need to call your mom and dad.
Mm-hmm. Wow, it's a fantastic point. And
go ahead, I just think, I think that we need to march on police departments all over America before they act. We're right now, we respond after they act. I think there's been enough tragedies. I think we need to serve all these police departments with notice. Our cup runneth over. We're not going to tolerate this stuff. We're not going to take it. But I would, beyond expressing our disgust, our outrage, we need to demand systemic change. I think I can understand what Black Lives Matter is saying when they say defund the police, but that's to me, that doesn't provide the solution. I think we need the right police in the right communities at the right time. We don't need the wrong police in our communities, ever, for whatever reason. Sometimes there's a domestic call. People call the police and wind up losing their life. There's something wrong with that. Because they come to a situation with the wrong attitude, and even with Jacob Blake, it was a domestic thing. He was trying to get that straight. They came with the wrong attitude, and they didn't intend for him to live. It was only by the grace of God that Jacob Blake is alive after being shot 7 times in the back. With his children, with his 3 children in the back of the car, watching what happens, so I'm saying, Stacey, that the best practices are not going to come to the police or from the police by osmosis. We got to demand it, and we have to help. And I know a lot of Black police officers that want to reform the police departments, but some of them are in jeopardy because they're in these unions. These police unions who will cold blue, where they defend one another even when they know one another is doing wrong. So I think there's got to be some systemic reform, some systemic change, and I think to me, a police officer should be living in the community that they're policing. Mm-hmm. I don't think you can police somebody like an occupying army. You roll up into our community and then start taking charge. No. They have no respect. They have no respect. So if you can't live in our community, you can't police in our community.
Amen.
You know what I'm saying? I think we gotta just take it to the hilt and start demanding change that we know gonna make some change. Our children, our women, our fathers have a right to walk the street without being terrorized by these racist police officers. If we don't put a stop to it, nobody's gonna put a stop to it. That's our responsibility.
I agree. I also would like to add, too, that I believe this is the time to really teach and train our young people to take these offices, right, in government, in law enforcement. And that will be a great change, too, to have young Black people in these offices that can help make that change as well. Also, I would like to add, as a grand jury court reporter, one of the things that was very evident to me was voting, because you can't sit on a grand jury if you don't vote, right? We need young Black men, women, middle-aged Black men, women, older Black men and women to be on those juries. I got to see in 2 years the gentrification in DC. When I first walked in that courtroom, where it was half Black, half white, by the time I left, it was 75% white. That makes a big difference. And people, I know people say, "Oh, I don't want to serve in a jury." Guess what? You could have been the deciding factor for Philando's case, because you don't want to vote. You don't want to vote. No, voting is more important than just the ballot and voting someone in. It's actually life or death.
And thank you for that, Ms. Carter. I want to go back to the foundation, the Philando Castile Foundation. Can you tell us a little bit more, Valerie, about the foundation? We know about the no lunch debt. What else have you been able to accomplish? I know you work so hard. Can you kind of fill us in a little bit more on the foundation and how people can learn more about the foundation?
You can learn more about the Philando Castile Relief Foundation at PhilandoCastileFoundation.org. PhilandoCastileFoundation.org. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. And recently, July the 6th, the commemoration day of 2020, the Minnesota Driver's Manual was updated with a section on gun ownership, what you should expect from the police when you're pulled over, and what the police expects from you when you're pulled over and you have a weapon in the vehicle. So that was a great accomplishment. It took me a year to get that accomplished. I had went to the public safety department and talked to them about putting something in the driver's manual, because, we have young kids growing up and they will be drivers and there will be people getting permits to carry. So we wanted to make sure that, at the end of the day, we all want to go home.
Yes.
At the end of the day, we all want to go home. So if we can counteract some of these issues, then that can be accomplished. So the driver's manual was updated. So we're good on that. And like the doctor said about policing your own community, I have brought that up countless times about being maybe 15, 20-mile radius where, when you wake up, you having a bad day, go out there and put your aggression on your neighbors and see how well they fly over when you knock Miss Judy to the ground and she 80 years old. Or if you knock little Cody upside his head a couple of times and see don't his daddy come knock at your door. You understand what I'm saying? So it's a lot that the foundation have been doing on working panels and working groups, coming up with recommendations. We work with John Jay Criminal College. We came up with a group of best practices, recommendations, blueprints for the prosecutor's office, the BCA, investigators, and the community. And this was all done by 50 diverse individuals. We're talking about prosecutors and police officers, activists, and family members that have been directly impacted by police brutality. Came up with this toolkit that was launched February 2019, and it's sitting collecting dust.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And, Jackie Carter mentioned earlier about the media and burying Philando twice. If it bleeds, it leads. Valerie, I want to ask you to perhaps tell us, maybe something great that we may have missed about Philando. There's so much been written about him. What is it that made him such a special child? Every child is special to their parents, but what made Philando so special, even extra special?
Well, in reality, when I was maybe 17, 18 years old, my gynecologist told me I couldn't have no kids. So I got 2. So he was really a treat. When he came along, he was the treat. And I was 27 by then. And all my friends like, oh, that girl had a baby. Oh, no, not Val. I was a piece of work. I was. But he was just a joy, just a wonderful, wonderful child. I've never, ever had to defend my child up until the day he was denied his right to live. I defend him more now than he was as a child.
Wow.
He was so smart, lovable, friendly, and he just was a wonderful, wonderful spirit. He didn't have a spiritual religion. He didn't believe in religion. He was a spiritual person. He believed in God. He believed in Jesus because he knew that God sent prophets. So we ain't gonna get into that, but he was a spiritual person, and he would do anything for anybody, And he found his niche when he worked in the school lunch program with those children. He would drive, yes, he did, on a suspended license because he knew no one could take care of those children the way he could. He knew all those kids by name. He knew all of them's allergies. He knew their PIN codes. If the lights went out, they would still eat their lunch and it would be documented because he knew their PIN numbers and all of that. He'd help them kids on and off the bus, the ones that had disability. He was a great role model and mentor for his friends and the children that he served. He was a pillar in the community. He supported the Black businesses in the community. He just was an all-around great guy, laid back, quiet. He was just a phenomenal person. You'd have to really know him to love him.
Yeah. And Jackie Carter, sometimes journalists, we ask what they say tough questions, and other times we kind of lob in a softball. So I'm going to lob in a softball to you. How does Valerie Castile inspire you?
Oh my gosh, I don't even feel like crying tonight. It's Friday. She's an amazing woman. I mean, she'll tell you. I have this conversation with her almost on a weekly basis that, you're the most amazing person I've ever met. To go through the tragedy that she has and God using her in this particular time and moment. None of this is happenstance. This is a divine calling that she has on her life that she never understood. And I hope she finally gets to understand that, because she is a force to be reckoned with. If there will be change, it would be because of her. And I'm just glad that I know her and she allows me to be in her atmosphere.
Wow. You want to add anything to that?
Oh my God. Jackie is a wonderful person. And when I met her, I just felt this kindred spirit, she's just like me.
I know.
I love her to death, because she went out of her way. I never knew all of that. It's like she didn't know me. She didn't know Philando, but she reached inside her inner self and did something about what happened to my son. And you can't say that about everybody. The easiest thing that I could have done, Jackie could have done, was do nothing. That's the easiest thing we could have done. But she did something. I'm doing something. So we're a match made in heaven.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
So
And I want to just put this photo. I don't know if you see it, but Justice
Yeah,
for Philando.
Yes,
Justice for Philando.
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, look, we admire both of you. I think the bond that continues to grow between both of you. There are a lot of other mothers out there watching this program, and I know they have been inspired by your inspiration, by your dedication, and by your commitment to continue to press forward. I'll be very honest, as I look back over the last 60, 65 years of my life, one of the reasons why I got involved in the civil rights movement is because I love my mama. I love Black people. But growing up as a kid, I did not like how I saw my own parents were being treated or how others were being treated. And as a young kid, I said, man, I can't wait till I grow up. I'm not taking this. So by the time I was 12, I got my NAACP card. Time I was 14, I started working with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And as I look back on my life, the only regret I have, I shouldn't have started at 12. I should have started when I was 5, 6 years old, because the sooner you get involved in your movement, there's no better feeling to go to sleep at night and wake up in the morning knowing you done something for your people. Mm-hmm. And I just want to thank you for keeping the spirit of Philando Castile alive. Thank you, Jackie, for all the work that you're doing, and Valerie, as Philando's mother. Our words are bond. We're going to continue to support you and do whatever we can on behalf of the Black press of America to show you our support and continue to demand justice for Philando Castile.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And for Jackie Carter, remember the No Reach pouch, everyone. It's available. Jackie says you can order it. And remember the Philando Castile Foundation, and to donate to the Philando Castile Foundation, text No Lunch Debt to 44321. It was an absolute privilege having you both on the program tonight. As Dr. Chavis has articulated so well, the Black press will continue to follow this and follow what you guys are doing. And all the great work that you continue to produce. So we thank you for that. And on Monday, Dr. Chavis, we have a special broadcast. We have representatives from the census that will stop in to talk about the importance of the census as the census starts to wind down. So thank you, everyone, for watching. And again, a special thank you to Valerie Castile and Jacqueline Carter. Everyone, stay safe and stay well.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank you.
God bless you, too. It was an honor and a privilege. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.